Okay, let's dive into this. If you're sitting for the Cambridge Accounting AS and A-Level 9706 exam, you need to listen up, because what we are covering today is an absolute game changer. Mastering the revaluation of non-current assets, and specifically navigating that incredibly tricky divide between the cost model and the revaluation model, well, it just isn't a nice to have. It's absolutely essential. Why? Because this specific topic is practically hardwired into the exam's DNA. It appears in virtually every single examination series. The examiners literally love to test it, and unfortunately, it's exactly where thousands of students bleed easy marks year after year. Today, we're acting as your elite exam coaches. We are going to completely decode the exam's invisible matrix. We're going to break down exactly what Cambridge examiners are actually looking for way beyond the textbook, so you can walk into that exam room with total, unshakable confidence.
So here is our roadmap for today's masterclass. First, we'll uncover the examiner's secret lens. Second, we'll break down the method mark strategy. Third, we'll do a deep dive into the traps, flaws, and warnings. And finally, we will build your final exam playbook.
Section 1. The examiner's secret lens.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it exposes the biggest myth in A-level accounting. If you think getting top marks is just about rote memorizing a few balance sheet formats and drilling formulas until your hand cramps, well, you are setting yourself up for a really nasty surprise. The theoretical architecture of this exam demands so much more than that. The examiners are specifically hunting for causal relationships and integration. Think about it like this. Imagine two scholars in your class. Let's call them Alex and Sam. Alex is highly technical, fantastic at memorizing facts, and can recite the definition of the cost model perfectly. But Alex stops there. That is what we call superficial breadth. It's just listing basic definitions. Here's the cost model, here's the revaluation model. End of story. Then you have Sam. Sam thinks conceptually. Sam understands that an upward revaluation isn't just an isolated number. It creates a massive ripple effect. Sam connects the revaluation to an increase in equity through the revaluation reserve, points out how that alters future depreciation expenses, and explains how that ultimately impacts the assessment of the company's long-term profitability. That is analytical depth, and frankly, that is the holy grail. The principal examiner reports explicitly highlight the candidates who reference these cross-topic connections. The SAMs of the world unlock significantly higher marks, especially in those high-tariff 9 to 15-mark essay questions.
To really deliver that analytical depth we just talked about, you have to understand the three distinct cognitive domains the examiners are actively testing you on. They call these assessment objectives, and you have to hit all three. First is knowledge and understanding. That's your basic foundation. That's Alex's superpower. It's knowing the strict rules of the cost and revaluation models. But if you stop there, you're leaving points on the table. Second is analysis. This is where you actually process the data logically. You deconstruct the question, you run the numbers, and you structure your reasoning. But the highest tier, the absolute peak of the mountain, that's evaluation. You need to demonstrate mastery across all three domains to unlock the highest grade bands. Evaluation means looking at the results of your analysis and questioning them. Is that fair value actually reliable? What if the market is crashing? If you only show knowledge, you know what happens? You've artificially capped your score before the examiner even turns the page. It's like having a Ferrari but never taking it out of first gear.
Section 2. The method mark strategy.
Okay, this is where we transition from high-level theory down to the real, gritty, practical mechanics of scoring points. Because in Cambridge accounting, the final answer, the final number at the bottom of the page, isn't the only thing that matters. In fact, sometimes it's not even the most important thing. So the crucial point is this standardized three-step sequence that you literally must execute every single time to guarantee you capture every single method mark. Step 1. You've got to deconstruct the question and extract the raw data from the stimulus materials. Before you even touch a calculator, you need to identify the original cost and isolate the accumulated depreciation of that asset. This is your three-step question scan. Step 2. Select your framework and execute your notation. This is where you show your workings. I cannot stress this enough. Show your workings. For example, explicitly write out the calculation to eliminate the accumulated depreciation before you map that upward revaluation to the revaluation reserve. If you do this in your head, the examiner can't reward you for it. Step 3. Verify and present with terminology. Method marks are awarded for the process, even if, heaven forbid, your final calculation goes slightly off the rails because of a dumb math error in Step 1. Following this exact sequence ensures you still scoop up the vast majority of the marks available for your logical approach. It's an insurance policy for your grade.
And speaking of that final step, let's talk about presentation. Presentation in Cambridge accounting isn't just about aesthetics. It's not about having nice handwriting. It is a strict academic benchmark. Failing to use strict conventions bleeds easy marks. I mean, it is literally throwing points away. You must apply proper headings. You must use correct terminology. Actually, scratch that. You don't just use it, you have to weaponize it. Don't ever just write value. What does value even mean? Write carrying amount or fair value or net book value. You need appropriate formats and crystal clear annotations. If the examiner is sitting in Cambridge with a stack of 1,000 papers and they cannot easily follow your systemic processing, they simply cannot award you those precious method marks. You have to guide them by the hand.
Section 3. Traps, Flaws, and Warnings.
Right before we tackle the absolute hardest part of this syllabus, let's hit pause on our session for just a second. If you are serious about crushing your Cambridge exams and you're getting value out of this explainer, you need to hit that subscribe button for Ace the Exams, IGCSE, O, and A levels at the handle @Ace the Exam IGCS right now. Make sure you turn on that notification bell so you never miss a weekly Cambridge breakthrough strategy. We are dropping these exam hacks constantly, and you want to be the first to know. All right, jumping back in, we are looking directly at the Cambridge Principal Examiner reports. This is the Forensic Deep Dive. Here are the top 3 warnings straight from the actual people grading your papers. 1. Answers are far too vague. You know what I mean? Students writing sweeping, generalized statements. Examiners are absolutely desperate for specific, precise details. 2. Format and presentation are ignored. We just covered that, so I know you aren't going to make that mistake anymore. And 3, and listen closely because this is the absolute biggest killer. Answers are not specific to the context given in the exam scenario. Let's unpack that.
Just look at this direct quote from the report. The classic mistake is providing generic answers not specific to the question context. Always link every point to the given scenario. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why memorized, generic responses will instantly cap your grade. Let's do a quick mental workshop. Imagine the exam gives you a scenario about a high-tech manufacturing firm that is revaluing its specialized factory machinery. You're reading the prompt, and suddenly you freeze, and then you just word vomit a textbook definition of the revaluation model onto the page. No, that is a fatal flaw. You cannot just write a generic definition. You must explain how the revaluation model affects that specific manufacturing firm's financial statements. How does it change their specific depreciation burden? How does it impact their specific dividend distribution capabilities? Context is king. If you strip away the context, you strip away your marks.
Let's move deeper and see how this builds into the highest level of critical analysis. Remember our command word, anatomy? There's a massive difference between analyze and evaluate. You have to elevate your mindset from the descriptive level all the way up to the evaluative level. Describing is just stating the facts from the data. It's safe, but it's low scoring. Evaluating, on the other hand, evaluating means you are actively questioning the assumptions made into source material. It means identifying limitations. For instance, if the prompt talks about an upward revaluation, a descriptive answer just calculates the new value. An evaluative answer points out that a revaluation relies heavily on subjective fair value estimates that might be completely unreliable or fail to reflect true market conditions if there's a sudden economic downturn. Evaluation means considering alternative interpretations. It means acting like a real-world auditor and ultimately justifying your final recommendations with hard, undeniable evidence. That is exactly how you dominate those higher-order assessment objectives and secure the A-star.
Section 4. Your Final Exam Playbook.
All right, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. We've tackled the high-level theory, the gritty, practical mechanics of method marks, and the lethal traps you need to avoid. Now it's time to synthesize all of this into a concrete strategy for your next past paper practice. Here is the definition of a flawless answer. I want you to literally burn this into your memory. It is a context-specific response that follows strict procedural conventions and evaluates evidence to justify a recommendation. A genuinely great memory hack to encode this is to use a visual story method. Imagine a giant funnel. At the Y top of the funnel, you pour in the specific context of the prompt, the company name, the industry, the exact numbers. That's your paragraph balance formula. As that information flows down, it passes through the strict procedural filter of your formats and headings, your methods. Finally, it drops down into a magnifying glass at the very bottom where you evaluate the evidence, actively questioning it, which points directly to your final recommendation. And remember your last 5 minutes review checklist. Check your headings, check your terminology, check your math. Keep that funnel visual in your mind every single time you sit down to tackle a revaluation question. Before we wrap up this masterclass, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to ask yourself during your revision sessions tonight. Look at your past papers and ask yourself, are you truly evaluating the evidence, or are you just describing the data? Be brutally honest with yourself because I promise you, the examiner will know the difference immediately. They can spot it from a mile away. Listen,
Crushing Cambridge exams requires a consistent, elite strategy. If you found this breakdown helpful and you want to master every single topic in the Cambridge syllabus, you absolutely need to subscribe to Ace the Exam's IGCSE O and A levels at @acetheexam_IGCSE. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell right now so you never miss out on future exam hacks, and I want you to drop a comment down below with your target grade for the 9706 exam. Commit to it. Put it in writing for the world to see, and let's go get it together. I'll see you in the next explainer.